Hey everyone, and welcome back to Bridging the Gap. My name is Alvin. I lean right on most issues, and I'll be representing the Republican side.
Hey, I'm Luke. I lean left on most issues, and I'll be representing the Democratic side. Now, in this video, we have our September Senate predictions, um, and we're going to be updating our August map, and yeah,
Yeah,
checking out the Senate life.
so here's our August prediction, and there's a few rating changes that we're going to have to make. We tried to not discuss any of them beforehand, so we could have some, legitimate debate in this video. And we already filled out all the safe states that we definitely don't need to talk about. But there's a few safe states that do have some interesting things to talk about.
hmm
And do you want to start with Alaska?
Okay, well, so in Alaska, we have Lisa Murkowski, the moderate Republican, going up against the Trump-endorsed Republican Kelly Tshibaka. I think after those Alaska, what was it, primary results, I think it's pretty safe to say that Murkowski definitely has the lead as of right now. And if you actually combine her vote with the Democratic vote, because through the use of using ranked choice voting, that would put Murkowski ahead of Shibaka at this point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear, I think, that Murkowski is like has a big edge against Chewbacca, with Chewbacca only having under 40% of the vote. A lot of these Republicans are gonna break for Murkowski and the Democrats as well here,
Yeah.
since it is a top four primary and there's only one Democrat. And they were willing to vote for Murkowski here in this top four jungle primary. So it's going to
hmm
be safe Republican no matter what, but we think
Yeah.
Murkowski is going to win this one. And then for Washington, just yesterday, actually, something really interesting came out in Washington. I think yesterday or 2 days ago. Um, I just came back from vacation yesterday, so that's why I say yesterday. And that's the Trafalgar group. The Trafalgar polling in Wisconsin, Washington.
Washington. Yeah.
Washington is extremely interesting. And we have a few Republican internals that have showed this close, but
Yeah.
Trafalgar has it within three, and that's basically their margin of error. And they're basically saying that Tiffany Smiley has a big chance in Washington, which is a bold statement considering they have this race as close as Arizona. And I just
Honestly,
don't buy this poll.
yeah, I don't really buy that. If you look at the June the August primary in Washington, the Democratic Senate candidates, because they use a jungle primary,
True.
got 55% of the vote combined, and the Republicans got 41%. That's a 14-point lead for the Democrats. And usually, in most elections where this has been tested, this lead for the Democrats grows um, between the primary and the general. So as right now, I think it's safe to say Murray is set to win by a safe margin, and I'm pretty confident in that.
Yeah, I think Murray's. It could be technically within 10. I mean, it
Well,
could be
yeah,
like she
I
could
mean,
win by 9, but I think this is just safe D, and there's going to be
mhm.
no debate about
I
that.
think the only way that Washington can get closer is if Republicans invest more in that race, and just based on looking like around at the rest of the country in more competitive races, I don't think they're going to be really investing in Washington at this point.
Very true. All right, let's move on to Iowa, which, in my opinion, is still safe Republican. Even with the recent, national environment shift towards the
hmm
Democrats, I just see Chuck Grassley. He's gonna have to die for this to not be safe Republican.
Yeah. So here, like we have the Republican fossil, Chuck Grassley. He's been in the state for a while, able to win this Iowa by 20 plus points, I believe, in 2016. Yeah, I think it's quite safe for him. The polling has showed that it might dip down to like under 10, and like the most accurate poll of 2020 had him at only +8. But I do think that he'll still come up on top, above 10 points. Why? Because I think undecideds will ultimately break for the incumbent here. Like Chuck Grassley's just been like a reliable set figure in Iowa. And I think
Yep.
at the end of the day, they'll just go and back him.
Yeah, again, it
Yeah.
could technically be within 10, like Washington, if something shifts, but for now, it's
Yeah.
gonna be
And
safe.
again, I don't think Democrats are going to really invest in trying to beat Chuck Grassley. in Iowa.
Yeah, and then we have Colorado here. Do you want to talk about Colorado?
Colorado, like, I mean, if you look at the polling, it's been kind of more mixed lately. Like you see some polls that show it like within 1 point, and another showing the Democrat winning by 11. It's been kind of a roller coaster. Um, I think what Trafalgar had it at +6, and I assume that in a state like Colorado, like in 2020, the polling was biased toward Republicans, so it was more blue. The state ended up being more blue than the polling. I think yeah, it'll probably be slightly above the Trafalgar margin. Maybe I could see it +7, +8. So I think it's something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of concerning for an incumbent to not get over 50%, but I think he's gonna make it. It's gonna be
Yeah,
likely
and
be.
yeah, Bennett's running against Joe Odia, a more moderate Republican. That'll be an interesting race to watch for sure.
All right. And then Ohio.
Oh wait, no, before that,
Oh,
let's check out Florida.
oh, Florida, correct.
Okay, well, yeah, so in Florida we have Marco Rubio going up against Val Demings. Uh, Val Demings is a representative who was like talked up at being like a potential vice presidential candidate for Joe Biden. Yeah, the polling's been kind of mismatched here. Like the Democratic internals show it like pretty close, or Val Demings winning, and then the other polls show Rubio up. So it's crazy. Um, yeah, this one's very hard for me because like when you look at 2016, you see Rubio winning by 8 points and taking like half the Hispanic vote then in 2016. Um, Now, I mean, Hispanic voters in Florida are obviously shifting to the right. You would expect Rubio to win by 10 plus, but like I don't know, like this like the polling between the polling and like how I see like other Republicans like Trump and DeSantis doing in the state. Uh yeah, this one's turned into like a tough, rating for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, usually when I'm stuck between two ratings, I usually go for the softer one, as in, if it's the closer one. And I'm not exactly between likely and safe. I mean, I think it is likely, mainly because I don't think so many polls can be that far off. Especially like the University of North Florida poll, and the
But
polls that aren't Democrat internals
I
still.
would like to note though that University of Florida poll predicted Nikki Fried would win the Democratic gubernatorial nomination, and it was very wrong. So I'm
Okay.
not sure.
That sort of changes things. I mean, the polls here are very whack, for one. And also all the likely voter screens seem to be favoring Rubio, in
Yeah,
every single sense. But I still usually just go for the softer rating. And
yeah.
I can't just disregard the polls. Yeah, do you think it's safe?
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's kind of tough because like the shifts in the state would imply that it could be a race Rubio wins over 10. But then again, you look at Val Demings. She's an extremely well funded candidate. She's actually outraising Rubio in the state. So like, and she's definitely stronger than the last Democrat like ran in 2016. So I'm not really sure. Like, I'm like in that area between like likely and solid. But yeah, I'm not sure. Where would you put it? You
All
said
right.
likely.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
likely for me.
I'll go with your rating.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's gonna probably win by like 8 or 9. I mean, I just don't see it being, secure, safe like I would see in Iowa or Washington. I think DeSantis and Rubio, like I've said before, they get each other over the finish line. They both have their own bases, and they're gonna turn out their bases to vote for the other person as well. But I'm not. Maybe later on we'll put this one in safe, depending
Mhm.
on where the polling goes in the national environment. But for
Okay.
now, I guess we'll put this in likely. And then, like I said before, next up is Ohio, and um, that's
Yeah,
going to be
this
an
is an interesting
interesting
one.
one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in their last prediction, we put it in likely
hmm
Republican, and this might be a change to lean Republican. But I'm not sure what you think about this one.
I don't know. Okay, so Ohio. Okay, so we've gotten like since our last rating, we've gotten like some more polling. We've seen like an Emerson poll put uh put JD Vance, the Republican candidate, at +3, and we see a Trafalgar poll putting him at like +5. That's that, like, comparing that to 2016, that's definitely softer than what Trump did. But obviously, there was a grand polling error in favor of Democrats in wait, sorry, did I say 2016 and 2020?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. This is like a tough one because like Tim Ryan's been running a good campaign. He's been making a lot of money, and I don't know. Like JD Vance has been like kind of absent, like from the
Yeah.
state and having a few scandals. I don't know. This is a very tough one.
Yeah.
I would still say, I think personally, I would still say it's likely just because we've seen like polling like errors in Ohio before.
True.
But I definitely think it'll be less than Trump's margin in 2020.
I agree with you. I think it's probably around the same margin as Trump, maybe just a tad lower. Just because Ohioans probably like Trump's vibe more than JD Vance. And Tim Ryan is running a really good campaign. I have a lot of friends in Ohio that are in like the political sphere, and they all say, Tim Ryan has this atmosphere that is favoring him right now,
Yeah.
just in terms of like who he's been talking to, etc. And Vance is not on the campaign trail as much as he should be. McConnell's had to divert his money to JD
Yeah.
Vance, which should
28
not be
million actually.
necessary.
Yeah, a lot
It
of
has
money.
24, but
Uh,
anyway, I don't know. JD Vance is not the best candidate, but I think he's just gonna win. And I'm confident putting him in a likely margin just because in Ohio the polls were off by 8 in favor of the Democrats. And if it happens again, then all these pollsters need to just not exist anymore. And
Yeah.
Trafalgar is putting it, and Emerson is putting it. And I think it's probably just likely. I mean, it could be lean
Mhm.
later.
Yeah.
Likely are.
Okay.
There we go.
Where do you want to go from here? Pennsylvania, the neighboring state?
Yeah, sure. Pennsylvania. I mean, this has been a hot take for me, right? From the very beginning, I said Pennsylvania would be to the left of New Hampshire.
Hmm.
And I don't know if that's still gonna happen. I think definitely at the time it was the right call, and it's controversial, but you sometimes have to make some hot takes. And Dr. Oz and John Fetterman are, locked in this battle where John Fetterman is winning in every single poll. Doesn't matter who you ask. And even to the Trafalgar polls, which you need Trafalgar, because if Trafalgar didn't exist,
Yeah,
you
they
might
tend to
think,
lean right, so you can like
right, and you can
gauge
gauge.
it again. Yeah.
And Trafalgar has Fetterman up by 4. And even if Dr. Oz can turn out the Trump base using Doug Mastriano and the undecideds break for him, he's still not going to win, in my opinion. As of right now, he's got to have some sort of some monster event for him. Maybe Fetterman has a second stroke. That's got to happen for Dr. Oz to save the day
Well,
for the
okay.
Pennsylvania Senate
Let,
race.
Looking at this race, I mean, like, Dr. Oz is obviously has a lot of baggage. He's from like New Jersey, and like it's just like, and he came out of a tough primary also. Like, and if Fetterman's been like constantly memeing him, and it's been like Oz has been like kind of brutalized early on. But looking at Fetterman also, I think I could see Oz, gaining making it this closer as the race goes on. I feel like almost certainly it will get closer as more Republicans are probably eventually going to come to Oz's side. I think eventually he'll get more of that base. And obviously there's that whole thing about a debate and like Oz pressuring Fetterman and saying like, "Hey, we have to debate now," even though like Fetterman's like just getting off a stroke and recovering from a stroke. Um, I mean, I don't know. But again, like you look at the polling here, and it overwhelmingly favors Fetterman. I think I would still, as of right now, I'd put the race at like Fetterman winning by 4 to 6. but I definitely can see it getting closer in the future. Um, I mean, yeah, I'm between lean and likely on this one. Like, what about you?
Yeah, so a month ago, like I said, I thought PA was going to be to the left of New Hampshire with that same margin, Fetterman winning by about 4 to 6. And I think there's some potential for Oz to close in that gap and make it, 2 to 3 in the future. And I think I'm just more comfortable again putting the softer, lean
Yeah,
margin. So there we go. And then I guess we could go to New Hampshire now that I've
yeah,
mentioned
sure.
that state a few times. And New
Um,
Hampshire, yeah, you want to go?
yeah. Okay, so we have Maji Hassan, the Democrat, going up. Well, we don't really know who she's going up against yet. Like, I mean, the Republicans haven't had their primary yet, so it's either going to be Don Bolduc, who ran in 2020 and got flattened, or Chuck Morse, the leader of the New Hampshire Senate, I believe. Um, yeah, Bolduc is is the more extreme candidate between the two. Um, but Morse seems to be more favored to win, to perform better than Bolduc. I think as right now, if Bolduc is the one who goes up against Magic Hassan, then it's going to be lean or likely. But if it's Morse, then I think it'll be tilt or lean. Like I don't know. But right now, Bolduc's winning in the primary, so I think we should base the race off him.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much of a rating change here on New Hampshire. We had New Hampshire at lean, and we don't really have any really new information. The only info we really have um is I think like a few like two new primary polls, and
Mm-hmm.
they sort of show Morse, coming up into, he's consolidating the more moderate base, and he's getting the undecideds to, break for him somewhat. He was down at 2% in the beginning, and now he's at 22, which is looking a little up for him. And if we go to the New Hampshire betting markets here, we show Morse, he's at about 25% to win the
Yeah, he used
nomination.
to be leading that, by the way.
And yeah, and he's in an okay spot. I mean, I would take being Chuck Morse right now over being, Dr. Oz or something. But it's not like we think Morse is gonna win, and it's probably just gonna be Bolduc. And I think we should just stick with our earlier projection of lean
I
and
mean,
call it a day.
you could argue that Democrats have been gaining momentum lately, and it could tip into likely. I think, um, but it is New Hampshire. It is a small state. Um, I don't know. Like we haven't really seen like that the actual like campaign, and we haven't seen like a lot of in-depth polling. So I think we'll leave it at lean right now.
Yeah, could things can change in New Hampshire depending on the Republican primary, which happens very late, and things could also change in the national environment. So,
Okay.
yep, keep it on lean. And next we'll go to North Carolina.
Okay.
So I guess I'll do this one since
Yep.
you did the last few. And in North Carolina, we of course have Mr. Ted Budd and Cherry Beasley on the Democrat side, and all the polls recently actually have Cherry Beasley up or tied, and that's very interesting. I mean, these are all the polls that we got after our August prediction, and they're all partisan polls, so you never know. The undecideds are in vast quantities. We have vast quantities of undecideds, which is always annoying when you're looking at polls. And I still think Ted Budd is just, I think he's just winning, and it's going to be a lean margin.
Yeah.
There's not that much to talk
Cherry Beasley's a good candidate for the Democrats. I think they got one of their best picks in North Carolina. She's a former state Supreme Court justice. She's the head of the North Carolina. She was the head of the North Carolina State Supreme Court. She only lost in 2020 by 400 votes, which is like a very, very small margin for a state as big as North Carolina. Um, I would say Ted Budd is still favored to win because it's North Carolina. It's been a tease for Democrats for what it's decades now. And like, yeah, like I feel like he's going to win by like a few points. Trafalgar has it at, I think their poll had it at +3, so it could be pretty close. I think even a Republican pollster like Signal had it like tied. But yeah, I think it still slightly favors Bud, obviously, just because of that state North Carolina is in, where it always tends to go to Republicans.
Very true. I think we just keep this one as lean, not that much to discuss. And we can go to Arizona next, just because I think Wisconsin's going to be closer than Arizona.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
Arizona here has been, it's been a very interesting state. And I think Carrie Lake over in the governor's prediction, which should come out either tomorrow or in next 2 days, is going to be running ahead of Blake Masters. And I think all the polls have been showing that, right? They've shown Carrie Lake ahead of Blake Masters, and none of the polls show Blake Masters on top. And it's important not to just look at the polling in Arizona, just because, Blake Masters is very polarizing, and some people might not be voicing their support for him, but Mark Kelly has been hitting 50%, even in the Fox News poll, and I think he's ahead by 2 to 3 points right now.
Yeah, I think Mark Kelly is ahead right now. Mark Kelly's former astronaut. He's an incumbent senator. I think he's in a pretty good position. As right now, he's been leading in every poll. Even Republican pollsters have him up 3 to 5. I think as of right now, he's favored to beat Blake Master. Like, you look at the polling, it's been improving for him. Yeah, I don't think. I think Mark Kelly's making like a real effort to try to appeal to moderates, especially on like immigration. Like, you see him like being less in line with Biden when it comes to like the border wall and immigration. You could see him trying to make a play for more moderate voters. And whilst Blake Masters more, I think, is kind of fumbling the ball in terms of that. Like, he's had very extreme positions on some things like abortion and Social Security and stuff like that. I think Kelly, as of right now, is favored to win. I think I'd put it at lean blue.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be another rating change in favor of the Democrats here into lean blue. And then we have Wisconsin. And in our last prediction, we put Wisconsin at lean Republican. And it could still be lean Republican, but I'm more inclined to put it as tilt Republican this month. And that's just because even Trafalgar has Mandela Barnes up to. And, we know Wisconsin. Wisconsin is notorious for, that. I think it was like New York Times poll last cycle, right?
Yeah,
that's absolutely horrible in Wisconsin. And for some reason, 538 still has New York Times at A rating, but we don't talk about that.
But yeah, Trafalgar's more accurate though. In the state.
In the state, and they have Mandela Barnes up too. And I still think Ron Johnson's favored by a little bit, just because it's Ron Johnson, and Ron Johnson doesn't lose. But yeah, it's gonna be tilt for me.
Yeah, I would say so as well. I mean, Ron Johnson's like pretty unpopular in the state, at least according to polling. Obviously, there's error in polling, but he's like unusually like unpopular. Like for an incumbent senator, I don't know. I can see Mandela Barnes doing really well, and I could see a potential like a reality where Mandela Barnes wins, but I think Johnson is still the slight favorite just because like he's notoriously trolled the polls before.
Oh yeah, I think 538 had him at like 5% to win in 2016, and he pulled it off. And there we go, tilt Republican. And finally, Nevada and Georgia. I've been telling Luke that Nevada and Georgia, I think, are pure toss-ups, and I still stand by that. Which one do you want to go to first?
Let's start with Georgia, because I think when we've talked, I think we were more certain about like where this one will go as opposed to Nevada.
Yeah, Georgia. You can talk about Georgia. You love this race.
So Georgia, we have Raphael Warnock going up against Herschel Walker. Now, yeah, it's very interesting. So Warnock's the incumbent senator, Democrat. He won by 2 points in 2021. And Walker was obviously endorsed by Trump, and he's had a turbulent past with health disorders, threats to his wife, lying about his business, like in some of his speeches, like you just see like it's hard to tell what he's talking about. It's just crazy. He's running against Warnock and like trying to tie Warnock really to Biden. Well, Warnock's trying to illustrate how he's gotten wins for the state and stuff like that. I think personally that this will go to a runoff. I think it'll be very close, but I think in the end, Warnock will win because the national environment seems to be trending Democrat right now. So I can see it like in a special runoff that Warnock having an edge. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually agree with you here. I think, Walker might even be leading in the first round. And that could happen. And the recent polling for some reason has been shifting towards Walker, mainly just because of who's polling. But Warnock, I think this is going to go to a runoff as well, and I think Warnock has the upper hand in the runoff. We saw him earlier against Kelly Loeffler, last year. And he won in the runoff because he was able to raise so much money. The most expensive Senate race was this one, his Senate race in Georgia last year. And he's able to raise money. He's able to get his voters to the polls. And that's just going to be a lead tilt D for me.
Mm-hmm. I think we agree on that one. Yeah. Okay. And then lastly, we have Nevada. You could talk about this one.
Yeah, Nevada, in my opinion, Nevada. Not sure. I'm still not sure I really pronounce that. I say Nevada. But Nevada here, another pure toss-up for me. I think this one is just barely for Laxalt here. Why? First, when we look at the polls, we see Masto consistently under 50%, which is always concerning for an incumbent. Then, in Trafalgar's recent polling, we have Laxalt up 2 or 3. And Trafalgar is usually off in favor of the Republicans by 2 or 3, which is making me think that this is a pure toss-up. But when you see the other polls, you would think, Masto's up. And I just don't buy these other polls. And these are pretty whack. There's been whack polling in Nevada. In general, Laxalt is a very strong candidate relative to the other Republican candidates in the Senate cycle. And I think he's going to barely have enough to take down Masto with the shifts in Hispanics and the general electorate in Nevada.
Yeah, Adam Laxalt's definitely a more tested candidate as the former Attorney General of Nevada. But I will say, I still think, I think I'd actually still put this tilt blue, and that would be a rating change. I think Cortez Masto is a slight favorite. I mean, most of those polls imply a really close 50-50 race. Or her winning by a bit. And also, looking at the national trend, it seems, looking at like special elections, stuff like that, it seems to be shifting toward Democrats. So I think I could definitely see it going to tilt blue, especially in a state like Nevada, where the state, like for a swing state, is unusually pro-choice. Compared to what you'd expect for a swing state, it's like 60% or something. I think that could really put her over the edge. But I mean, obviously, like you could look at like Hispanic shifts and stuff like that. So I mean, I think it still could go either way. But I think at the end of the day, I think she's in a better position now than she was at the end of last month.
All right. So how do you want to settle this? We have our final toss of state, and we have to figure out what we want to rate it.
Yeah, I'm not sure how do you want to do this. I mean, we have. Oh, I'm tilt blue and you're tilt red. Either way,
we could either do a random number generator, or we could just look at the betting odds and put it what the betting odds say.
Okay, let's do the betting odds because I have a feeling they're gonna favor Masto. So
yeah, I have a slight feeling. All right, yeah, they do favor Masto, and all right, there we go.
Slightly though, 54-48.
We'll put this as tilt. Just because I didn't look at this before, by the way. So I had no idea, but there we go. We have how many rating changes in favor of the Democrats? I think 3 or 4. We have 4. We have Nevada, which moved from tilt red to tilt blue. We have Arizona, which moved from tilt blue to lean blue. Wisconsin from lean red to tilt red, and then Florida from safe
solid.
From safe to likely. So there we go. 4 rating changes, and the Democrats now have 51 seats to the Republicans 49. And we'll see where it goes from there. So thanks for watching. Like this video, comment down below.
Make sure to share with your
Subscribe.
friends. Yeah. Subscribe.
Thanks for watching. Bye.
See ya.